on because obviously I had to jump off real quick because my baby boy woke up and then he got a little bit upset. So I had to do that. But I was on a bit of a roll earlier and I just wanted to convey some more of the message that wants to come through today. And then I'll wrap it up. So I think like the core message is that you're a limitless creator. You are a limitless creator, but of course, you already know that. You already know that. So the question comes to mind, if we are limitless creators and we all have that resource of unlimited tapped potential, then why is it that we sometimes fall into the illusion that we aren't capable or have the capacity to create the reality that we want? And a lot of it, what I was speaking about before, comes down to the conditioning that all of us have been exposed to in our life. And like for an example, I was speaking a little bit about that term, which is, um, have you heard that saying where they're like, give me a man or give me a boy up to the age of 7, and then I will make him into a man? And the reason that phrase, like one of the meanings of that is when we are children, when we are really young, what a lot of people don't know, and it actually baffles me that so many of us don't actually know this because we're not taught it in school. We're not taught this in school. This is not mainstream knowledge, but it should be. It 100% should be. So when we are born into this life, into our mother's womb, into this life, up into the age of 7 specifically, that is when our brain is the most susceptible to taking on information. Like we are literally like sponges, and that's why conditioning from our environment is at its highest. So where we're brought up, our culture, the families that we are born into, our peers, the communities that we're a part of, all of that has a direct impact onto how we shape the way that we perceive the world and the way that we perceive ourselves. Because we are taking on their viewpoint as truth. We at that age, we haven't developed that part of our brain which is responsible for discerning information that comes through. So for an example, if you're a child and someone tells you this is how life is, or this is my perspective, or this is what truth is, that child is going to take that on as truth and it won't know the difference, right? So this is why they say, give me a boy up to the age of 7 and I will make him into a man. And this is the sort of information that we all need to understand, especially those of us that are parents like myself, because it's so important what we expose our children to, because from the get-go in this thing that we called life, the way that we are programmed, the way that we operate is so fundamental. It is the foundation to our all of our lived experience, how we perceive the world, how we navigate the world, how we feel about ourselves, right? This is like really, really important stuff, guys. And I think this is why I'm speaking up about this, because I know so many of us are doing it, but it's important. This is like how do I explain this? Like if I could leave one message before I die, whenever that is, it's death is coming for all of us. We all have that in common. I think one of the messages that I would love to share with other people, which is I think now more common knowledge, but I'm still truly like, yeah, really surprised at how many people don't know this, which is our brain consistently fluctuates between different brainwave states. And essentially, what I mean by this is we are moving through life, even as adults, through different brainwave states, which means that sometimes we are in a more coherent fashion and with thinking with our analytical mind. We're very sharp, we're very in the moment, but sometimes we slip into more, it's kind of like a hypnotic state, right? It's like those states where we're a little bit in a dreamlike wave state, and this actually happens way more than we are led to believe. It happens just before we go to sleep, just as we wake up in the morning. That's why you have to be really careful about what you're letting into your sphere of experience. Literally, what are you taking in with your five senses? What are you watching? What are you listening to? Right? What are you eating? What are you essentially feeding your system? Because we our power starts from within. And so we need to take care, we need to acknowledge that everything that we are allowing into our sphere of experience is going to have a direct influence over how we experience life. And let me just break this down for you. So, going back to that example that I was speaking about around how, as children, we are really susceptible to programming, to belief systems, to anything like indoctrination through school, but also especially from early caregivers and parents. And it's no fault to their own, because we are all part of this system where we're not taught to recognize that what we imprint onto our kids leaves a lasting impression. That's because they are, when we're in that state, we are literally like sponges taking it all in, and it becomes part of our makeup. It becomes part of our unconscious mind. It becomes subconscious. So a lot of the time, when we talk about this information, you're gonna feel it. You're gonna feel the resonance to what I'm speaking about. But sometimes we don't actually have that. How do I say? We don't have that reference point in our mind, because it's an implicit experience and it's an unconscious. It's streams of information that we're basically taking in. And so, what I mentioned before was around the subconscious mind. So, one of the key things to take away is our subconscious mind makes up to 95% to 98%, influencing all of our thoughts, all of our behaviors, all of our decisions, essentially how we navigate ourselves through life. So that's going to impact how we feel about ourselves, what we think we're capable of. Um, it's essentially the marker of how much abundance we let into our life, how much we can pursue with confidence, right? And so when we tune into this inner wisdom, this innate wisdom that we all have, we can recognize that, okay, we are, none of us are exempt. We are all programmed. We have all gone through conditioning in our life. I don't care who the frick we are, like, we all have been exposed to conditioning on some level, right? From the collective, from our communities, from our families, blah, 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 blah. You know what I'm going on about. But it's our responsibility now, if we want to experience a real shift in our paradigm, if we truly want to quantum jump onto a new timeline, essentially, we want to experience a new flavor of life, then the first thing that we need to do is to step into this new level of awareness, is consciousness. It's a higher level of, it's a higher level of perspective. It's like, okay, this is how we've been conditioned from such a young age. And I'm telling you, like, this should be common knowledge, but it's not. So all of us are moving through the world through with our own belief systems, with our own filters, with our own lenses of how we view our life, ourselves, our relationships, people, the world. And that's why you can see some people have more of a natural disposition with, they're way more confident, they're way more positive thinking in general. They genuinely lean towards looking for solutions rather than problems. Whereas if you look at the mass collective, and this is no fault of our own, because if you think about how much we're bombarded with information from the news and the mainstream media and just things like that, we are constantly bombarded with these sort of negative information that is there to kind of keep us in this low vibrational state. It like keeps us in that fear consciousness. And again, I'm not trying to demonize this. I genuinely think this all plays a part, but we have to become extremely aware of what's going on a much deeper level, because when we unlock this new level of awareness, then we can then start to be like, okay, right, this is what's been going on. Now, what can I do for myself to make this big shift possible? And one of the things that we can do is to learn how to reprogram the subconscious mind. That is just one of the things that we can do. And like I said, the subconscious mind equates to 95% of everything that's driving your life right now. So if you have never taken the time to actually like do a little bit of shadow work, look into your belief systems, like go so to the depths to think, okay, what am I actually believing is true in my life? Is that something that is beneficial for me, or is it detrimental? Like, for an example, do the things that you believe uplift you? Do they make you feel good, or do they make you feel bad? Do they make you feel like scared? Do they make you feel less than? Do you feel like a victim? And this is no way, I'm not trying to how do I say this? Like, we are like, I don't see anyone above anyone else. We are all the same. We are all on the same level, but that doesn't mean that we don't have different levels of awareness and different levels of consciousness around something. And so I know a lot of you will resonate with this. Some people are so consumed by lower vibrational energies, whether that's fear, anger, guilt, resentment, etc. And the pattern that you can see here is a lot of those people tend to um, live in a reality where it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. If you are someone that believes that you are, like, for an example, you are an incredibly unlucky person, and so so there's a part of our brain called the reticular activating system, RAS for short. And essentially, the job of the RAS, what it's responsible for, its primary job, is to scan our environment for evidence that supports any of our core belief systems. So if you've taken on a truth from childhood that the world is not safe, or for example, money is really hard to come by, that's an obvious example. What happens is, as you move through life, you have something called the reticular activating system, and its primary objective is to consistently scan through everything in your everyday experiences to essentially confirm that core belief. And so if you've ever heard the expression, where your attention goes, energy flows, that is a real thing, okay? And I have to put so much emphasis on that, because I know this is not ignorance. I know we are living in a very turbulent time, and this is not ignorance. Like, of course, we have to have compassion and awareness of what's going on around in our world, because we are all connected. However, like, it's also our responsibility, our ability to respond, to first tune in to ourselves so we can make a difference. And the way that we do that is we turn the dial. We look into, how can I raise my consciousness? How can I raise my vibration? And for a lot of you, you're probably coming across me like, you don't know me. I'm just some random chick that's like talking into the camera in some random place in the world. Like, why should you listen to me? But like, it's all the same. Like, we all have our experiences that I truly feel that can be valuable if we share them with each other. Like I said, no one is above each other. We all have been born into this life with certain experiences, with certain wisdom, with certain knowledge that it's important for us to share. And so I said in my last video, if I was to leave this earth at any point, what is one of the messages that I would choose to leave to anyone who is in their life, or maybe stuck in a rut, or is very much part of that old paradigm way of doing things, which is stuck in the scarcity, stuck in the lack mentality, stuck in survival, right? Because we are conditioned to live in survival. Don't get it twisted. It doesn't mean we have to stay there, but we are literally primed to live in survival. And I'm talking about the mass collective, okay? I'm not talking about the elites. I'm talking about most of us. We were never taught in school that this is a fundamental part of how we are operating. And so it's our literally our job and our responsibility to decondition the mind, to recalibrate our nervous system, because so many of us have a baseline state of fight and flight, right? Of anxiety, of feeling urgency, of feeling panicky, of feeling like we can't slow down because we have to keep up. We have to keep up with the fast pace. We have to keep up with the world. But guess what? That keeps us stuck in a loop. It keeps us in a habitual loop of survival. And it's also the same when we drop down into places of feeling depressed, of feeling dissociated, of feeling disconnected, of feeling like we have no power over our lives. And I know from firsthand how that place can be one of the most challenging places to move out of. And shout out if you get it, you've been there. I know so many of us have, or we know someone that is currently going through something like that. When you feel essentially helpless, it can feel like there's no way out. But interestingly, a lot of people that I connect with, especially with this collective that I genuinely feel like I'm tapping into, which is the intuitives, the sovereign leaders, the trailblazers, the change makers, the ones that recognize that there is so much more going on that is portrayed in the mainstream, and you just know. A lot of us recognize that sometimes we have to get thrown into these really dark places in our life, and it's fucking scary because it can be so lonely and isolating. It's almost like, have you heard that term, the dark night of the soul, where you have to go to a certain place? You're pushed so far past your limit into survival that you have to go so much into the dark to find the light, because there is no other way. There is no other way. When you go all the way down, there's only up, right? And this is I'm pleasantly surprised again and again when I connect with other like-minded people that have gone through some serious shit in their lives, who have firsthand have had to build themselves back up, who have had to like go through some really hard times in their life, to recognize that no one's coming to save us. No one is coming to save us. We have to save ourselves. And sometimes it is a blessing in disguise. Like most of the people that I talk to about this, we all agree on this. Like our biggest our biggest traumas in our life, the most traumatic experiences, yes, I don't think any of us want to go through those experiences again. But we all agree that they were the biggest blessings, because do you know why? In those dark times, we found ourselves. We found tools and ways to move through something that is almost incomprehensible to most people. It's like once you go through something like that, and it's like you go through an inner alchemy where you have no choice but to go within and to trust that things are going to unfold. And it's not a linear path, it's non-linear for sure. But I think this is where my journey started, actually. Let me know. I'm genuinely interested about how other people have kind of come to this level of awareness. But for me, the trajectory of my life shifted on numerous occasions, but definitely from some near death experiences. And I actually, there was one, so I've actually had three, which is, I know, going to sound absolutely ridiculous, but in my life, and I'm very fortunate and very lucky, but one stands out in particular, and that experience that I went through. And by the way, just to clarify, I think that the people that are tuning into this probably have way more crazier stories, way more intense stories. Like I'm definitely not special in any way, but I think it's important to, talk about these things. This is real life. One of the experiences I went into actually when I was 19. So definitely way over a decade ago, and I'm giving away my age a little bit, but that shifted something within me because I moved into a place in my life that reality as I knew it was completely ripped away from me. And if you've gone through something like this, whether it's mental health, whether it's, you can go to some dark spaces, any sort of traumatic experiences. But what happened is I was kind of thrusted onto this path of having to lean on tools to help me recalibrate myself. So, for an example, like this is when I really got into sound medicine, into frequency, I into working with different tools and regulation practices to help reset my nervous system, but also to tune in to a higher level of consciousness. And it, again, the darkest times of my life have turned out to be the biggest blessing in disguise. Because, guys, let me know, once you've gone through something like this, and the first experience I went through, it lasted for years. Like, I had panic attacks, and the residue of this, it was essentially PTSD from this particular experience I had. And it lasted for a few years, and I really had to work on myself. It was almost like I kind of had no other choice but to go within and to work with the resources I had at the time and to experiment. And so I went down this rabbit hole of experimentation of how to get myself out of this place. And by the way, just to be transparent, I went down the how do I say, the recommended health route. In England we call it like the NHS, stuff like that. I seeked medical attention. I also went through holistic practitioners. I did both. Like, you want to try everything, but I kind of got thrusted onto this whole new trajectory of my life where I had to start experimenting with things that were going to bring me out of this space and into a place where I didn't feel like I was in survival. So this is the main, if you have to take any message from this, is when we go through certain experiences, sometimes it can be the biggest blessing in disguise when you have been pushed so far past your limit, where your body is stuck on a physiological level. It's not even just a mental level, on a physiological level, where you are stuck in this habitual loop of fight and flight or dorsal. You have to basically build your foundation from the bottom up. Like, there is no other way of coming back. So life is never the same again. You have to learn new ways of tapping in to who you are. And yeah, so frequencies, like frequency music, like hertz, 528 hertz, 432 hertz, different hertz I was experimenting with. That was a huge wake up call to me of how potent music is, and resonance and vibration in general, but also working with certain foods to essentially, it's kind of like medicine on so many different levels. It's like, what are you putting into your body? How do you feel about that? And so for me at that time, I was really looking to work with earthy foods to help ground myself, because the experience I went through really was kind of an out of body experience. It really took me out of my body. And so a huge part of this integration process for me was to bring myself back down. Right. And so, yeah, I think when you have gone through something like this, like so many of us have, but different flavors, different experiences, the one thing that they have in common is we recognize that we can't continue in our life in the same fashion as we did before, like in a superficial way. Like we can't, like I struggled so hard to find the same sort of connections with people, in the sense that when you go through something that is literally life changing, it's really hard to move through life in the same way. It just is like, it changes you to your core as a person. And so, like I said, not everyone's going to get you, not everyone's going to resonate with you. Great. We're not trying to appeal to everyone. We're trying to resonate with our tribe. We're here to find the people that get it. The people that don't get it, it's okay, move on. Like I feel super passionate about connecting with like-minded individuals who know to their core that life isn't life is so much more than is portrayed in the mainstream, and we can access so many different levels of consciousness. We can access our intuition. We all have access to extrasensory perception. This should be mainstream knowledge, but it's not. It's like extrasensory perception. Okay, for an example, we know about the five senses, right? We've got sight, sound, smell, hearing, touch. Okay, and out of those five senses, we are experiencing what we call reality. But what people don't realize is what you are seeing out there is not actually out there in the way that you think. What's happening is our brain, through sight, is taking in this information signals and taking it into our brain, and it's decoding that information and interpreting it. But essentially, it's light photons that are coming into our brain, into our eyes, and then we are seeing color through that. It's really hard to bend your mind around, but essentially, the five senses that we are tapped into, that we experience reality in, equate to, I think it's something like, it is a really, really tiny bandwidth of what actually exists. And we know this from science. So science proves that it's something like, I wish I had on the top of my mind, I don't know why, it will come to me, but it is a crazy percentage of how small, like, what we're tapping into in comparison to what is actually existing right now, but we just can't see it past what we can decode. And so all of this is relative to the conversation, because we are limitless creators, and you do already know that. You do already know that. But this journey is about remembering who we are. And I'm reading some of the comments right now, and here we go. Yes. I agree. The way that we are living is our nature. Yeah. So again, guys, like I'm just so grateful to be able to jump on here and connect with you all, and just to hear your perspective on this. Thank you. And like I said, not everyone's going to get you. So some people are going, it just shows how much people, like the way that they perceive you, you can trigger people, and they can choose to either express themselves in a loving way or express themselves in a way that is less than loving. Does that make sense? But I've genuinely got to this point in my life where everyone's entitled to their opinion, and we are always going to project our truth and our perception onto other people. But if someone says something hateful, like I think someone was like, your face looks chubby. Thank you. And it does make me laugh, because fair enough, it probably does look really chubby right now. Thank you for letting me know, but I'm not gonna let that make me feel sad. Do you know what I mean? Like, I think there are some people that are operating on such a different wavelength, where they probably feel the need to try and take down someone for for what purpose. And I guess what comes to mind is people genuinely feel disconnected from who they are, or they don't feel happy in their lives. And I'm just calling it out because this isn't, again, we're all on the same level. I don't think I'm above you, I don't think I'm below you. I genuinely think we're all at the same level, but we all just have different levels of awareness. And I think it's important for us to, have that unconditional love for each other and to support each other when we want to express ourselves. Thank you. Um, but yeah, guys, I think I've officially got to another half an hour lives. I'm absolutely loving jumping on. It just feels super like the right thing to do. I was creating videos and just uploading it, but like I way prefer lives. So if you have enjoyed this conversation, hit me up. I'm going to start doing this pretty much every day or every other day. And yeah, so lovely connecting with all of you. I hope you're having an amazing day wherever you are in the world. Shout out to everyone out there. Thank you. Yeah, it's my extremely English accent, but yeah. Much love, guys. Oh my God, and the sun is coming through. Like, I'm genuinely like, I just want to show you where I am at the moment because it's gorgeous. It's not where I'm going to be forever, but it's like you can kind of see it's, yeah. I'm also putting my, I'm also putting this on top of a chair at the moment because I don't have a tripod. But yeah, right, guys, I'm off and out, but bye. Bye, my loves. Bye.